Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States, looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet that will have approximately 9 billion souls by 2050, how we're going to be able to engage each one of these individuals to actually contribute to a planet that needs to provide all the basic necessary, the food, the fuel, the fiber, and the infrastructure. And we have someone that's joining us on this particular program that's going to be talking about how to engage youth and getting involved, looking at environmental quality, at the same time how to address severe climate change. And she has a very long title because she's a very busy young lady doing lots of good things. This is Lynn Cherry. She's a director of Young Voices on Climate Change, producer-director of Young Voices for the Planet, which is a film series, and author and illustrator of the great Kapok Tree. Welcome, Lynn, to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about all these different things you're doing, but especially the film series, Young Voices for the Planet.
The film series grew out of, actually from a children's book, How We Know What We Know About Our Changing Climate. Scientists and kids explore global warming. And Gary Brosh had, he's a pretty well-known photojournalist, and he'd done a book called Earth Under Fire, How Global Warming is Changing the World. And I was very concerned when I read the book and thought we should do a children's book version. But then when the book came out, it was scary. That even though it was about the science, it ended up being scary. So as I was going around the country speaking to kids about rainforest destruction or cleaning up rivers, I realized that if I just told them about the doom and gloom, that they would be pretty upset. But if I told them about kids saving rainforests and kids cleaning up rivers, that they would become empowered and actually really excited about wanting to do something. And so with climate change, that became the way I decided that we needed to approach it, which was to tell success stories about climate change.
Yeah, well, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and encouraging all these young people to be involved in this. It's just really heartening to see the millions of youth that actually do want to get involved. And so I want to bring up this first slide and give a kind of an image of some of the people that you've been talking about. But describe the role of youth in all this activity that you're talking about, the projects, and then the ways that they are becoming even more engaged by the fact of having this film series.
Well, I'm actually just championing the stories that I've found. So I heard about Felix Finkbeiner planting millions of trees. I heard these stories about Alec Loers and his Sea Level Awareness Project and the Green Ambassadors. We're going to be talking to Jordan today, greening their school. And so all these kids are doing very different things, but every one of them is reducing CO2 emissions. And in order to reduce CO2 emissions, in order to do something about climate change, we really have to reduce CO2 emissions. And here are these kids, they're coming up with solutions, all replicable, everything we could do.
Well, this is all about Emerald Planet because we're talking about best practices, the things that are very practical, can be done, and of course they're going to be replicated around the globe. And so what you're doing is that you're engaging with them as they actually developing these things on their own. So looking at how do you identify them, how they find you in order to be able to bring these best practices to film?
I've found them all different ways, and it's usually people just writing to me now that the series is out there and a lot of people know about it. I just probably a couple times a week I get someone asking me, or telling me about someone who I should do a story about.
So as they contact you, what are some of the things you're asking them so you have an idea of who they are, what they're doing, and the types of activities within which they are engaging?
Actually, the young people who are in the films, that I've done so far, there are 9 films going on 10, I heard about them, and then I ended up contacting them and asking them if they would be in the film series. So they were up and running, and then I just made, basically they're documentaries. I document what they're doing.
That's absolutely incredible. And of course, having the fact that they are really creating these on their own gives them the energy, the ideas, they're doing the research. So there's just a lot of information that they're generating they can provide for youth. I know you're looking at different people, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different ethnicities and all that. What is some of the feedback you're getting from the fact of kids now are able to see themselves more and more through this film series that you've created?
That's really key, because kids or youth, they're really inspired by their peers. And so when they see someone who is their age, who they can really relate to, then they think, oh, well, if those kids could do that, then I can too. And that's part of the strength of the film series, I think, is that the kids are from age 9 to 19. They are the United Colors of Benetton, and these kids are they're all so earnest. They care very, very deeply about the planet. They know that we are in trouble, but they also know that there are solutions out there. And I guess the big question is, well, why aren't we doing something? And so these kids, like for instance, you'll be meeting Maddie and Larissa from Dreaming in Green, and they did an energy audit of their school and saved their school $53,000.
I tell you, that's absolutely incredible. Tell us a little bit about the ones that we're looking at right here. What are some of the activities they're involved in, and how are they actually being able to reach out to the world, not just with their own local communities, but to the world as far as the activities they're involved in?
Well, we'll be talking to Felix first, and Felix is from Germany, and when I filmed him, he was 12, and he had started planting trees, Plant for the Planet. And so
now, which one of him is in the series that we're looking at right here?
Plant for the Planet.
Okay.
Yeah, Plant for the Planet.
That's in the lower left hand as we're looking at the.
Right.
Okay, and some of the others?
So we're going to meet Jordan, who's in the bottom middle, and she was one of a couple people in her school who started Green Ambassadors. And they greened their school, they planted trees, they went door to door and planted trees throughout the community. They did outreach to younger kids to teach them about renewable energy, all kinds of things. And Jordan will talk about that more. And then the Dreaming in Green isn't up there, but Dreaming in Green, we have some other pictures of Dreaming in Green, and they're the ones who did the energy audit. And what they did is they didn't just do it themselves, they went to their school board, they went to all the teachers, they went out to the community, they even got the airport to reduce their carbon footprint.
That is absolutely incredible. What are some of the other future activities you're going to be engaged in as far as other youth that you're going to be featuring?
Currently, I'm making a film about the Rivertown Kids Chorus, and they were mentored by Pete Seeger, the famous folk singer, and they sing about social justice and environment, and they tell the story about Pete cleaning up the Hudson River, and it's just really, really, really heartening story.
Okay, well, that's absolutely incredible. What are some of the challenges that you have working with the students and getting people to listen to them and feel like that the youth really are representing what's going on with the planet? You know, there are some deniers as far as climate change is concerned. And yet the youth are really moving us forward very rapidly in the 21st century in ways that many adults are really, just balking at.
Well, a League of Conservation Voters study showed that most people get their environmental information from materials that their kids bring home from school, and that the kids are the greatest pressure upon them to act responsibly, more sustainably. And when you look at seatbelts, recycling, smoking, those issues, the reason that they were successful is because kids in schools were able to go home and teach their parents.
Well, it's just incredible. And of course, you're traveling all over the globe. These are actually fantastic slides that you shared with us as some of the backdrop of the activities. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Plant for the Planet over in Germany. And you can see here they have the whole town out and engaged and supporting Felix and what he's doing. But tell us, what really do you have to go through to produce each of these films? And we see here some of the sets and the cameramen and the voice talent and all these things. So what is really involved in producing these?
Well, the first thing, of course, is always fundraising, and that's always a challenge. And it's, we do it on a shoestring. It'd be really great if we could just find a great benefactor. But the Rockefeller Brothers Fund has been the biggest funder, and thank God that they're helping us out. But they understand the power of youth, and the youth message. When these films are shown, they're shown to kids and to adults. And the kids, when they see the films, they get really excited. They go, we can do that, we can change the world. When the adults see it, they cry, because they realize that they've kind of fallen down on the job, I guess. They feel a little bit guilty. But all in all, they're very empowering and inspiring films. They're not doom and gloom. They're all can-do and success stories. They're totally success stories.
Well, I think this is really fantastic. So looking at the Young Voices for a Planet, what kind of change are they actually making in the United States and then abroad through the activities and the projects they're engaged in?
Well, Felix, Felix is in Germany, but Plant for the Planet is international. They've now planted over 1 billion trees.
That's absolutely
worldwide.
incredible.
Yeah,
1 billion trees.
1 billion trees. He's now working with the United Nations. He's a United Nations ambassador, and through the UN, who's adopted his program, they're planting trees all over the whole world. It's pretty exciting.
So what are some of your upcoming projects that are going to be advancing over these next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, the films, once we have the 10th film, which is called We Sing Out, we're partnering with National Wildlife Federation, with the United Nations Foundation. The films are licensed by National Geographic, by PBS. And so we're going to be getting them out. I mean, that's really the challenge, is, once you've made them, is getting them out so the world can all see them. And we know that they're effective. In fact, we know that they're really effective against climate denial. Because when you show a film before you actually talk about climate change, you think, oh, well, we don't have to be so scared. We don't have to bury our head in the sand, because there is something that we can do.
Okay, well, this is Lynn Cherry. She's the Director of Young Voices on Climate Change, also the Producer-Director of Young Voices for the Planet, talking about the children that are here, and thank you as we create the Emerald Planet.
She's had more than a dozen fractures. And in the next few years, she faces 2 major surgeries to strengthen her fragile bones. She's only 10 years old. Most people don't worry about fragile bones until late in life. For those with osteogenesis imperfecta, brittle bones are a concern throughout their lifetime. Find out how you can strengthen this child's future.
Diabetes is a killer. After I was diagnosed, I didn't feel sick, so I didn't listen to my doctor. Then it struck. I had a heart attack, then a stroke, and I was only 49.
Most people with diabetes also have high blood pressure and cholesterol, which can cause severe heart damage. In fact, 2 out of 3 people with diabetes die from heart disease or stroke.
Don't let diabetes destroy your life.
Call for your free diabetes survival guide. Choose to live.
back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products, and of course the people are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, we need to increase the level of the infrastructure, education, healthcare, all the other needs that we have. And to do that, as you know, we're going to have about 2 billion new people on the planet, this is going to be a very youthful population that we have going through the 21st century. And so how do we engage these youth to make sure that they're involved in looking at all the various aspects, the challenges that we have, and at the same time, what we're going to be doing as we look around the globe. And so we have a gentleman that's joining us from the country of Germany. This is Felix Maximilian Frankbeiner. He's a German youth leader for Plant for the Planet, PFTP. He's the founder of that, so lots of good things are going to be coming from Felix. And then also he is the council member for the Plant for the Planet Foundation. And then sitting right beside me as a special guest is Lynn Cherry. She's a director of Young Voices on Climate Change, producer, director, Young Voices for the Planet film series, and author and illustrator of the great Compok Tree book. And I guess this is actually a series, right?
Yeah, the book is that great K-pop.
K-pop, okay. Felix, welcome to the Emerald Planet all the way from Germany, and I hope all is going well with you. Okay, we don't have the voice level for Felix. Anyway, Felix, we are going to, there you are, you're coming up. Hello again, Felix. Let's see if we can get you coming in on Skype. There you are. Welcome. Welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about the origin of the Plant for the Planet.
Well, it started off with a small group school project about 7 years ago when I had to give a presentation in my class about the climate crisis in 4th grade. And when I prepared this presentation, I found out about the polar bears and about the Arctic ice melting, and also about Wangari Maathai. She's a Peace Nobel Prize, the late Peace Nobel Prize laureate from Kenya, and she planted 30 million trees there with many, many women, and that brought us to the idea that we could also get involved by planting trees and by being active that way. And that's how we started planting trees ourselves.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Lynn Cherry, who's sitting right beside me, was telling me now that you've actually planted over 1 billion trees around the globe. Is that correct?
Well, in the last about 7 years since we started off with activities, about 13 billion trees were planted, but of course just a very small part was actually planted by us and by children ourselves. But what we try to do is, of course, get governments, get companies, and get people involved in planting trees as well, because trees are the easiest thing anyone can do, or the easiest thing we can do to fight the global climate crisis. Because trees are the only machine we have today which can actually absorb the dangerous carbon dioxide which we exhaust.
Well, I tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. And I think you were saying in your comments there, you've now planted how many billion trees? Let's make sure we have the right number.
13 billion trees were planted in the last 7 years.
13 billion trees. That's absolutely incredible, Felix, and congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and looking at it, you're talking about there's only been a few of those trees, some thousands, I guess, by your own organization there in Germany. But if you're engaging the world and collaborating with all these other groups as well as government agencies and other nonprofits, I mean, that's really the best way to do it. So you're not really having to do all that by yourself. So again, congratulations on that success.
Thank you. At the moment, we are trying to make contracts with local governments all around the world to get them involved in planting trees. For example, we've been very active in Mexico there, and also in several other countries of the world to get that going.
Well, we need to engage you through Emerald Planet and another organization that I sit on the board called Natural Partners. We're actually looking to set up tree nurseries in every school in Mexico, elementary, middle, and high school. We already have 5 model programs going, and this is really to protect the monarch butterfly. So it's tying the trees, the butterfly, and then actually establishing butterfly gardens from Canada all the way into central Mexico. So we'll need to chat with you about that. So thank you for sharing. But Lynn is sitting beside me as a special guest. She actually has a question for you.
Felix, can you explain more about how planting trees can reverse the negative impacts of climate change and also address social justice issues?
Well, these global problems we have, the global climate crisis and also the global poverty crisis, which we have with 30,000 people dying of starvation every day, and extreme global injustice. These 2 global crises are extremely interlinked, especially because through the climate crisis, the people in the poorer regions, especially in some parts of Africa or Southern Asia, will suffer most from the consequences, will suffer most from the climate crisis. So, solving the climate crisis is also a big social justice issue. And therefore, doing something there, if it's planting trees or other measures to reduce carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, will also reduce the global injustice.
Well, I tell you, it's really fantastic what you're doing, Felix, and quite impressive the depth of knowledge that you have. So what do you think is the reasons that is making your organization so successful to engage youth all around the globe to try to counterbalance, again, the negative impact of climate change and also to enhance and expand environmental quality?
Well, when we started off planting trees, we thought we had to save the polar bear. But soon after we understood it's not actually about saving the polar bear, but it's about our future. We will have to live with all the problems we're not solving today. And I think that most of the children and youth, everyone that participates in Plant for the Planet, understands that we're fighting for our future. We're doing this for ourselves, and I think that's the reason why so many people are part of Plant for the Planet. And of course, many other organizations that do similar activities in all around the world.
Well, looking at that, Felix, I just want to trigger off of that response saying that people are doing this. So why do you think that, how are you able to reach the youth in their own local communities? In many communities, they say that the youth, even the adults and even government agencies are not engaged, but yet 13 billion trees being planted around the globe means there's a lot of people that are getting involved with what you're doing about Plant for the Planet. So what is that connection that you feel like you're making that maybe school systems, government agencies, even non-government organizations are not able to do to generate this kind of involvement by the youth?
Well, I think the reason why we're effective and able to achieve anything is because we're so many working together. We like to live by this idea that one mosquito cannot do anything against a rhino, but 1,000 mosquitoes can make a rhino change its direction. And this is our goal, to get many children all around the world involved in working together. And I think that's our chance, that's our opportunity. What we can do is by working together.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. And also, too, when you're going around the globe and you're taking care and need to avoid the mosquitoes, let us know. We have some special technology to address the mosquito issue as well. Lynn's going to ask you the next question. Lynn?
So how have your Plant for the Planet activities influenced your life? And you were in this film, Young Voices for the Planet, which is also called Plant for the Planet. And how do you think that all these things that you're involved in will affect your future?
Well, of course, these activities have made a huge impact on my life. Since I'm 9 years old, I've been active in planting trees and doing these projects. But over that time, it has been a great experience and also a lot of fun to work together with many other children and now also youth involved in these projects. And I'm sure that in future I will continue working with these issues, because we won't be able to solve these problems in the next couple of years. We will be fighting these problems for years to come, and I'm sure I'm gonna be part of that.
Well, being part of that, Felix, is really very important to provide that leadership. And going back to your organization, Plant for the Planet, the foundation itself, tell us a little bit about the foundation, the organization of it, and maybe some of the things that you're doing to reach out to other youth in other countries around the globe through the foundation itself.
Plant for the Planet is now an organization in 193 countries with children and youth engaged in tree planting and activities all around the world. And what we do is we organize academies, which are one-day workshops at which we involve children and youth in their local cities in starting projects there. And after that, of course, we plant trees ourselves, but then we also try to get others like companies or governments involved, so that they act by planting trees or other activities. So this is mainly what we are working on and what we are trying to achieve globally.
I know in a number of the slides we have in our research on the background of your Plant for the Planet and you, Felix, you give many speaking engagements, and they look like they're before very different audiences. We only have about 15 seconds, so let's just go. Where do you see Plant for the Planet going over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And we have to be very quick, about 10 seconds.
Well, I hope we will be a global network. We have the global goal of planting a trillion trees, 1,000 billion trees in the years until 2020, and this is what we're going to work on.
Well, Felix, thank you for being with us. This is Felix Frankbener, who is a German youth leader, Plant for the Planet, and sitting beside me is Lynn Cherry, and thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfripp@aol.com.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look into 144 different countries and all 50 states of the United States, looking for those best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. Also, how we're going to engage the youth as we add 2 billion more people to the planet over the next 30 to 40 years is very important to develop the systems and begin the engagement now so that they are fully aware and involved. And I have someone sitting beside me. This is Lynn Cherry, who is the Director of Youth Voices on Climate Change. Also, she's the producer and director for Young Voices for the Planet film series. And also, she has a number of books that are been published and illustrated. But coming on right now is Jordan Howard. She's a youth leader in California. She's a graduate of what's called the Green Ambassador Program at the Environmental Charter High School in Lawndale, California. And she's also the founder of Jordan Inspires. Jordan, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thanks for having me.
I tell you, you are a very busy person doing all this. And I want you to know the television station in Lawndale called us about 3 months ago and introduced Emerald Planet to all of the television stations in the greater Los Angeles area, but it came from your city that called us and wanted to distribute everything that we've been producing out there. So when I saw Lawndale was your town, I thought, wow, this is fantastic.
That's amazing.
It really is amazing, but it shows there's great awareness in Lawndale. Of course, you have the name, right? Lawndale,
yeah.
As far as all that. But tell us a little bit about this Green Ambassador program at the Environmental Charter High School.
Yeah, so Green Ambassadors it's an environmental service learning program that really is an introduction. It's a mandated program at the Environmental Charter High School. So every student that goes to Environmental Charter has to take this Green Ambassadors class. And what that class is really an introduction to environmental issues. And it's for some of the students, it will be the first time that they've really talked about environmental issues, but talked about it in a way where they can take a hands-on approach, and it's service learning. So you learn about an issue, an environmental issue, learn about people implementing the solutions, and then the students have to really take leadership and teach someone else about the problem, whether that means creating a community event, developing a solution of their own. So really taking environmental issues, making them tangible for young people, and then saying, okay, now it's your job to go and be a green ambassador and teach someone else.
I tell you, that's really a fantastic background, and this logo is absolutely lovely. And was this created by students, or where did this logo actually come from?
The logo came from an artist, created it. So if you see that that bubble in the middle, that bubble can represent, I'll say it represents me as a green ambassador. And what I'm supposed to do as a green ambassador, it's my duty to share an earth positive solution with someone else. And they would share the solution with someone else, and they share it with someone else, and they share it with someone else. And pretty soon you will have this big old bubble full of empowered, educated people.
Well, and what you're doing is you're educating the youth, and of course, many, many years to come, just like you, to be able to reach out not only to your local community in Lawndale or California, but really all around the planet, which is what you're doing right now through television. But I understand, looking at your background, that at one time maybe you were a climate change skeptic. And all of a sudden you became involved in this program, and now you feel like you need to be advocating for environmental quality and people to learn more about climate change. What was the turnaround as far as moving into where you feel like I need to become really actively engaged in addressing the issues of climate change?
I was a skeptic. I was a skeptic about about 5-6 years ago. I was a climate change skeptic. But it was because every time I heard about environmental issues or climate change, it was always about the gloom and doom, and always, you're a bad person because you like to eat meat. You're a bad person because you drive. And it was never something inspiring and saying, this is what you can do for the planet. You know, this is what you can do for the environment. This is what you can do for your health. This is what you can do for yourself. And that turning point came when I started to learn about the solutions, and not only learn that like some people have been implementing these solutions for decades and decades, and that environmental solutions weren't anything new, but also when I saw that connection to myself and the planet, and started to learn that it was more, environmental issues are more than just environmental issues. They are health issues, they are economic issues. So the solutions to those issues can solve multiple problems and not just environmental problems. And that's when I had that turnaround. I was like, okay, I can listen. I can listen. I can gain something from these.
I think it's fantastic. And this is really what Lynn and I have been talking about before you were coming on, and through her environmental film series, Young Voices for the Planet, about this engagement, getting people involved and allowing them to learn. But Lynn is here, so she's going to ask the next question. Lynn?
So, Jordan, what advice would you give to other young people about how they can influence decision makers and other adults concerning environmental and sustainability issues?
I would say for young people, I would say to take that burning passion after you're learning about an issue, or you learn about a solution that you want to implement in your community, in your city, in your country, in your state. I would say do it. Like, don't think about it too much. Just do it. If you look over history, every social movement has always been led by young people, and not just history, but present times. It's always been the young people that are saying no to the status quo. So I would say, don't think about what you want to do a lot, just do it. And if you think about all the other young people that are a part of Young Voices for Climate Change, like we just did it. We had this burning desire and didn't listen to no, didn't listen to you can't do it. We found someone that would lead us, whether that means a parent or a teacher or a mentor, but just do it, just take it and do it.
Oh, that's a great attitude, Jordan. What are some of the important lessons that you learned through your environmental service learning projects that you have there? You were mentioning those just a few minutes ago at the Environmental Charter High School. And what do you think is influencing your attitudes and even your activities today?
I think learning that education is important. Learning that education is important, education is empowerment, and a lot of the issues that are occurring right now won't get solved unless we can all be really, really good educators. Whether that means, I think that we all have a specific role, but a lot of times it's about educating people and learning, and kind of sometimes learning what other people think is important. Because a lot of times we think that what we're passionate about is the most important, instead of thinking about the other person and saying, okay, is this person interested in the economy? Is this person interested in health? Is how can I make what I think is important and what I think is passionate about, and kind of educate them on, and saying, let's meet each other halfway, and I'm going to meet you where you are. That's what's like really been the most, that's like the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that education is just important.
Well, looking at the other students you have at your school, I know that everyone's involved in this particular program that you have, the Green Ambassador program. But what do you think of some of the changes and some of the attitudes that they are creating through the Green Ambassador program that's really important? And how is this then translated into a community like Lawndale and other communities around the state of California?
It's amazing to really see that transformation. So Green Ambassadors has been, when I took Green Ambassadors in my 10th grade year of high school, it was the first time it had ever been piloted at the school. And now it's become like nationally disseminated program across the nation. But if I think about like my friends that are in it, most of us didn't come into the program wanting to be environmental stewards, wanting to be environmental leaders, even knowing about environmental issues at all. And now you have students that leave and that may not be interested in an environmental career, but they're now making environmentally conscious decisions. And they now go to college campuses and like become the environmental expert when they're like, no, I just know what permaculture means. I just know what these few terms are. What do you mean I'm the environmental expert? But this education, this environmental education is rare. This service learning program is rare. So what we don't realize is that we are becoming environmental experts and then able to go into other fields and become these advocates and really like say what Green Ambassadors want us to do is have this environmental conscious. And if everyone had environmental consciousness, we wouldn't need to have environmental organizations or environmental programs. It would just be the norm.
Well, the whole thing about it, Jordan, and this is something you've learned and you're actually sharing with our domestic and international audiences, that if you're engaged, it doesn't matter whether you're a scientist or a business person or in healthcare, education, whatever it may be, is that we're total human beings. And so there's great facets of our personalities and our lives that we can put into many different things, but we're all human beings. We have to live and nurture the planet, and this is something it seems like you're learning. But we're going to turn this over to Lynn and let her ask the next question. Lynn?
So Jordan, in the film I made of you, the Green Ambassadors film for Young Voices for the Planet, you were in the Green Ambassadors, and you talked a little bit about what makes that such a successful program. I wonder if you could say a little bit about that, and also the book Green My Parents that you wrote.
Yes, so I think what makes Green Ambassadors such an important program is that students are able to really be a part of the solution. And it's not something, a lot of times you go to school, a lot of times you go to science class, you go to chemistry class, you go to English class, history class, and you're just fed information. And you're told that this is the way that you listen, and then let's move on. What information did you retain from this lesson? It's never about really being a part of that lesson and being able to make these environmental issues. And it's hard a lot of times to make environmental issues tangible, because it's not like we can go to a rainforest and look and see how deforestation has affected it, in a lot of times. But what we really were able to do is take solutions like, okay, let's look at plastic pollution, and then look at look at the different times that you interact with plastic all across the day. Well, now how can you affect change, not only in your own life, but how can you affect change within your friends, within your family? So it took this really big solution that's hard. It's really took this really big issue that's sometimes hard to for young people to understand, and it made it small by saying you have an impact. What is your impact? Okay, now how can you impact the people around you? And then not just say, and then for students to understand.
Jordan, we're going to lose you in about 5 seconds. You got to be quick.
And making it fun for students.
Well, thank you for being with us. This is Jordan Howard. She's a California youth leader and a graduate of the Green Ambassador program at the Environmental Charter High School in Lawndale, California. I wanted to throw that in. And Jordan inspires. And then Lynn Cherry was sitting right beside me of the Young Voices for the Planet as we create the Emerald Planet.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. One lit some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped out money. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Yeah.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water.
At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site.
That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff.
You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet, the Director and host of Emerald Planet TV, coming to you from Washington, D.C. on a weekly basis as we look around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we're looking across actually the entire globe, but specifically 144 nations, and looking for the best of the best. How to engage, to look as we add another 2 billion people to the planet, and how we're going to come up with the food, the fuel, the fiber, everything that's going to be needed by humankind so that people are actually increasing and enhancing their quality of life and not just existing. And we have some young people involved in all of this. Sitting right beside me, I'll introduce her first, Lynn Cherry, who is the Director of Young Voices on Climate Change, producer and director of Young Voices for the Planet film series, and also she has an entire series of books and that she's also the author and illustrator. So you're doing fantastic things, Lynn. It's wonderful. And we have our first guest coming in by Skype. Her name is Larissa Horich Weinstein. She's a Florida youth leader, and it's what's called Dream in Green. And okay, so we're going to be able to talk to both ladies together, and we may or may not have the visuals. But Larissa Weinstein is going to be first, and then Madeline Cohen is going to be coming on as well, and they're involved in what's called Dream in Green. This is Larissa that's coming up first, and they started this at the George Washington Carver Middle School and the Coral Gables High School in Coral Gables, Florida. And Larissa, welcome to the Emerald Planet. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Oh, that's great. And then we'll be having Madeline on. But Larissa, tell us a little bit about this whole catalyst as far as Dream in Green. What is it? And the importance to you and the importance of the organization.
Sure. Dream in Green is a nonprofit that works with public schools, middle schools and high schools to encourage environmental awareness and environmentally sustainable practices. So they have a variety of different kind of competition style programs that they run in which schools can compete against each other to see which ones are saving the most kilowatt hours. And they also provide the resources to help the student leaders at those schools engage in these projects.
So the work that you're doing as far as Dream in Green, what is the origin of that? And is that just within the 2 schools that we identified, or is it across other schools within Coral Gables or even the state of Florida?
Yeah, I'm actually in college now, but Maddie and I did a lot of work at our middle school with Dream in Green, and we were one of many schools in our county that were participating in the program. And when we got to Coral Gables High School, we then brought Dream in Green to Gables High, and Gables High became another school that was part of the program. But it is absolutely a county-wide effort. I believe they've actually spread to a couple other counties now as well. But yes, we are not involved at the moment with it because we're both in college now, but they were not the only 2 schools, no.
Well, that's fantastic. And Maddie Cohen, are you actually available, I think, by voice? Is that correct?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, we don't have your photo up yet, but we're working to get that. What was one of the biggest catalysts that you had to encourage you to become involved in the environmental sustainability work when you were both in the middle and the high school?
Yeah, I think I can definitely trace back my first time fully becoming aware of the importance of environmental sustainability work to a particular 8th grade classroom with a very wonderful teacher, Bertha Vasquez. And that was really the first time that I had thought about how our actions, everyone's actions, can have such a tremendous influence on the environment around us. And it wasn't really just this particular teacher, but the fact that we're given the tools to learn about how our actions influence the environment and to do the research ourselves, discover the reality around us, and see that there is some impact that we can have that's positive as well.
Well, Madeline, you know that we have Lynn Cherry in the studio with us, and she's the one that was working with you, this Young Voices for the Planet film series. And these are actually some of the photographs out of the film that was created. So I'm going to let Lynn ask the next question. Lynn?
I just wanted to let the viewers know that Maddie, in that first picture, so Maddie was the one second
Correct.
from the left, yeah.
Yes.
And Dreaming in Green is the namesake of Dream in Green. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the name of the film. So Maddie, so what are some of the important things that helped you to be successful when you were working on that Dream in Green project? And if you could mention the airport, what you do with the airport too.
Yeah, definitely. So as Larissa mentioned, we worked with Dream in Green in both middle school and high school. I would say as a general overall, having a very supportive administration and using the resources pulled together from supportive teachers and custodial staff and other students really made our work very effective. But I think the fact that at our middle school, doing this kind of work was such a priority. It was a small school, all the classrooms got involved, and so it really became a very pressing issue that everyone was consciously thinking of. Dream in Green as an organization provides a lot of support, a lot of ideas and opportunities to exchange ideas. They have monthly themes, and I know in our high school work we took advantage of that to kind of tailor our work and our different projects to focus on different local issues. And so when we did, as in terms of this airport presentations, in 8th grade, we made a couple of presentations to executive board members at the Miami International Airport, and also to a chairman of the school board, of our local school board. And I think the fact that we were, all the students were the ones doing the research to identify best practices, good policies that are very effective and available, and giving this presentation to the board members, interacting with them, and really showing them that we are very passionate and we weren't going to stop until they listened to us. And I think those were really effective at letting our voice be heard and allowing us to feel like our voice can be heard.
We have Madeline Cohen and Larissa Weinstein. They're the Florida youth leaders in Dream in Green. And Lynn Cherry worked with both of these young ladies and a number of others to produce a film from these schools in Coral Gables, Florida. Why don't you point out just who these young ladies are, so that we know who we're actually listening to, since we haven't been able to get their images on Skype.
Yeah. So the far left in the red sweater, that's Larissa, and on the far right, that's Maddie. And they saved, how much money did you save the school just from doing simple things?
Yeah, in Carver, over 2 years, it was about $53,000.
That's real money, $53,000.
Oh, yes.
There would be a lot of school divisions that would love to save that for the whole school division, not just for the school itself. So, Maddie, you and Larissa are doing really good work, and of course it was a team effort. We see in these slides where you have other members of the school that are involved, and we have the logo up in case you can't see it. Larissa, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think schools are a good place to start to take action as far as increasing the ideas and also actions towards environmental quality, at the same time trying to reduce the challenges and the ill effects as far as climate change is concerned?
I think that schools are a great place for this because schools are already a place for learning and for exploring new ideas and for working on real projects that combine research capabilities with the real world. So I think it's a great way to apply a lot of the skills that we have to learn in school anyway to something that is meaningful and is a global issue and that students can understand is something that our generation will really have to work very hard to fix these issues. And by tying it into school, it kind of gives more of a purpose to school, I guess, and then also provides a real application of how we can start working on this issue now, despite being young, despite being still in school.
Well, I shouldn't say spike, because really it sounds like you're the spark plugs within the community to create all this positive change. So I think you have all the positives going for you. Madeline, and you go by Maddie, why do you think young people are most important as far as working against what's now becoming quite violent climate change?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say despite the fact that we are young. I think that young people have a lot of creative ideas, and there is definitely something to be said about not being stuck in a kind of paradigm when we're interacting with an industry. We're not necessarily aware of how things have always been done, and then if we do that research, we can identify ways that can be improved. But above all, I really do believe that the earlier the better. As soon as we start having these kinds of conversations in classrooms and beginning to spark this passion as early as possible, that gives young people more time to make change and to make discoveries. And as well as the fact that a lot of this work that we did in middle school and in high school are tremendous opportunities to build leadership. And I know a lot of us are going to be continuing to do this work throughout our lives. And even if our career paths take us away from specifically environmental work, I'm sure that many of us will become very strong leaders who will always support these issues in the future.
Well, we have less than 30 seconds, and Lynn, do you have one last quick question? And it's about 15 seconds for each of you, so we'll start off with Larissa, and then Maddie, I'll ask the last question, but we've got to be quick.
Yeah. In the film Dreaming in Green, Melissa says, if every school in the county did this, you'd save millions of dollars. It's just like so win-win. So I wondered if you can talk about, because you talk about it a lot in the film, which we
already run out of time.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, young ladies, we're really glad to have you, and thank you for being on the Emerald Planet. Madeline Cohen and Larissa Weinstein are Florida youth leaders, Dream in Green. And why don't you go out by giving us your URL for your film series?
So the Young Voices for the Planet films are at youngvoicesfortheplanet.com. They're very short films, 3 minutes.
That's all the time we have.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.